Hi everyone, it's Amy Gable Stitcher here with a special edition floss tube video. It is the end of December 2023, and this is the time of year where I like to make a video showing you everything I finished this year in one video and talk to you a little bit about my plans for the upcoming year. When I say plans for cross stitch, I really mean plans. I like to plan. I like to come up with all types of plans for the next year, for January. For me, January is a clean slate. I like to come up with reading plans. I like to come up with house organization plans. I like to come up with cross-stitch plans. Do those plans always pan out? Nope. I know that. But I like to have a guide, and for me, planning is part of the fun. So we're going to get to that. And what happened this year for 2023 for cross stitch influenced my plans for 2024. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But I have 19 finishes to show you. 19. I am very happy with that. 2023 for me was a very odd stitching year. I had a few months where I was not feeling well and I stitched my fingers off. I stitched a ton, but all I could do was stitch. And then I had about 3 or 4 months where I barely picked up a needle because we got a new puppy. If you know, you know. I never had a dog before, so that was definitely not. Now I know. I did not know. So I was kind of wondering when I was looking back what was going to happen. Were the months where I stitched a ton going to win out? Or the 3 or 4 months where I barely picked up a needle, was that going to negate everything out? Turns out the law averages 1. We met somewhere in the middle. I pretty much had a typical stitching year when it averaged out, and that is okay. At the beginning of 2023, well, really the end of 2022, I picked out about 20 of my projects that I wanted to focus on and focus to try to finish them or get a lot of progress on them. And that's pretty much what I did. I started more projects than I planned, and I have learned not to try to plan to have no starts because that's not going to happen. But for the most part, I worked on some of my projects that I pulled out that I wanted to focus on, and I got a ton of progress, or I finished them. So it worked. Didn't work how I planned it to, but it did work. So let's get into those 19 finishes. I'm going to be referring to my notebook where I wrote down and keep loose notes for the year. If I have a beginning of the year picture, I will put it in to show you where I started and at the beginning of the year and where the end product is. And I don't have any of the cover sheets with me because I have the projects. I'm not that organized this year. So if the project's available, I will link it in the description box below. You ready? I'm ready. Oh, and if I don't have the project, because a lot of these were gifts, I'll talk about it and I'll just put pictures in that you can look at while I tell you a little bit about them. You ready? I'm ready. Let's go. I, in my head, was thinking, let's go for 2 finishes a month this year to get 24. Came pretty close. Started out the year strong. So in January, we had 2 finishes. My first finish was Big Hearted Tiny Town. The Tiny Town series, I believe, is by Heart and Hand, and this is the one that I have finished. And it is a Foley finish. It is finished into a drum. I stitched it on a 32 count Belfast linen in the color lilac, and it was stitched with most of the called for. I did add green, you can see. And if I didn't have a thread, I just substituted with something I have. I finished it into a drum using the Kathy Haberman drum tutorial, and I will link that below because I think it's a fantastic tutorial. It's all hand sewing, and this is the first drum I have ever finished. And I am very happy with how it came out. It's also one of the only fully finishes of the year, so that should be in the plans for 2024. But finish number 1. And even though it's Valentine's, I keep it up all year because I just love it. Next finish was on January 14th, 2023. And I will put in pictures for this one. This was Dumpster Diver Friends Forever by Lindy Stitches. And I stitched this for my friend Julie, who is Kansas City girl in Colorado World. I personalized the friends to look like us, and a local cross stitch friend made it into a project bag for me. And I love the way it came out. She did a fantastic job. I hope Julie loves it too. I did mail it out to her and she was very happy to receive it. So that was project number 2. I think that was on a scrap of linen. That was maybe a 36 count. It was yellow. These are very loose notes this year, guys. It is what it is. So 2 finishes for January. We were going strong. Let's go into February. My next finish was February 11th of 2023. And that was Nantucket Christmas Houses, designed by my friend Julie, Kansas City girl, Colorado World. And her design company is Hemlock and Rye Stitchery. And this is them complete. I am really happy with how these came out. I stitched these on a 40 count vintage country mocha linen with the called for floss, which is mostly DMC, and it is I think 3 fancy flosses. Julie did release a border if you wanted to stitch them all together. I just stitched the bottom border. I decided to forego the top. Initially, I was going to finish this as a flat fold, but I actually think I'm thinking about a drum. I think I'll make a fantastic drum. There were 3 other 3 houses in the series, and I do plan on stitching them all. Do not currently have any of them as a WIP. All right. Gotta go from here over to there so we don't get mixed up. Next finish was a Prairie Schooler. It was Happy Christmas to All. Hold that up. This is from one of the Prairie Schooler Christmas books, and it is a reprinted book. I will link it in the notes. This is stitched on an 18 count fiddler's cloth, I believe, or actually it's an 18 count oatmeal Aida. It's not fiddler's. It's a little bit more yellow. And it's stitched with the called for DMC floss. I loved stitching this. I love stitching it so much. I think I might stitch it again. I think I'm going to gift this one to my mom or sister and stitch it again for myself. It was fantastic. A lot of fun. Next project is, so it's 2 for February, 2 for January. Let's move it into March. Next one is one I know I have not shown. It is Hogsmeade by Country Magic Stitch, I believe. And I will put in where it was at the beginning of the year. And this is my second fully finished item of the year. And here it is, finished. So this is stitched on 16 count white Aida, and it is finished in a very inexpensive frame from Amazon. But it works. It's the perfect size. So Country Magic Stitch has a lot of these travel posters. This was the first one I've stitched. I will likely stitch more. I don't think I'll stitch any more in this series, in the Harry Potter series, but there are so many other ones that I would like to stitch. Big blocky stitching. I have really come to enjoy full coverage stitching this year, and I have 2 full coverage finishes. So this is one, which is kind of crazy. If you told me 5 years ago I'd be stitching full coverage, I'd be like, nope. But here we are. So That is finish number 5. Like I said, March 16th of 2023. So, did we finish another one in March? Yes, we did. March 25th. I finished a Christmas ornament. This is from the Little Stitcher. If you have been with me for any length of time, you'll know that I love the Little Stitcher. She has an ornament set of green ornaments, and I would like to stitch all of them. I stitched this one here. Not fully finished, but side-by-side comparison for you. This is on 20 count Vintage Country Mocha Ada, 1 strand of floss. And I love the way that came out. Really, really a fun stitch. A lot more stitching in it than I anticipated, but I love the way it came out. So I would like to stitch the other 2 on there. So we are at 6, 3 months into the year. Where do we go from there? My 7th finish, I do not have that with me because it was a gift. I finished that on April 18th of 2020. And that was a pillow. I'm going to be putting a picture in of that. That was a start and a finish this year. It was stitched on 36 count Vintage Country Mocha linen with some call for a lot of my own pulled floss. It is Sewn in Friendship is the name of it, and I believe it was Heartstring Samplery was the designer on that, and I will put that in the box, a link to the project, because it is still available. That was a gift for my friend Angela. I finished it into a pillow, and I think it came out okay. My next finish was April 19th. We're still on track here. This is a Teresa Kogut project. This is from a Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine, and it is Flowers and Berries is the name of it. And I believe that was a start and a finish this year, so there will not be another picture. I love how this came out. I made this for a smalls exchange for a retreat, and then I decided to keep it because I wasn't going to stitch it again on the black fabric, and I love the way it came out. So I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to fully finish it because it's a little bit too big for a pillow. So I'll have to figure it out. I used DMC. I'm not entirely sure what was called for. And I think one of the DMC colors that was even the equivalent I changed. I usually am much better as far as notes for what I did. Like I said, this is just a very weird year. So you're seeing the finished projects. Love it. Every time I see that, I really like it more. April was a banner month for stitching. After I finished the Flowers and Berries by Teresa Kogut, like I said, I think that wasn't a Punch Needle and Permanent Stitcher. I think that might be available individually, and if it is, I will put it below. Then I finished 2 scissor fobs for 2 of my friends. When I was stitching the small that I decided not to gift at a retreat, I decided when I was going to retreats this year, I would just stitch small gifts for friends instead. And the fobs for Christine and Joanna, I will put those in. You will see those. Those were gifts for them. I pulled a letter off of a Blackbird Designs sampler, and the motif was out of a sampler book with some motifs, and I stitched those on literal scraps of fabric. but I really liked the way they came out. So my next project, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 finishes in April. We had no finishes in May. So what did I say? I think I said that I'm really usually good with plans through like March, April, and then things fall apart. Next finish was in June. My next finish was Never Enough Time. I love this. This was a project I'd wanted to stitch for some time. No pun intended. This was a start and a finish, so there'll be no other picture. This is by The Good Housewife. It is an out of print chart that a friend lent to me, so there will be no link for this. It is not a terribly difficult chart to find. I do see it pop up on the secondary market like eBay quite a bit. This was stitched on a 40 count vintage country mocha with a green silk, and I am not sure of what the silk was. This I would like to frame and put in my kitchen. So I think I will keep this out so I can measure it to order a frame. Really a quick stitch. Love it. Next finish was also on June 1st. Finished 2 projects that day. Was Susanna Eccles, and that is by Mama Loves You GB. She has a floss tube channel, Michelle, and she also has an Etsy shop. And this is a sampler that she reproduced. So you will see a picture of where it was in January and the finish. This was I really had fun stitching this. It is a small sampler. It has a lot of punch to it. A lot of fantastic colors. It is stitched on 32 count linen that I dyed. It's essentially flax. Just buy some flax. You don't need to dye it. And I stitched it with the called for DMC, 2 strands of floss over 2 linen threads. And the only modification I made is Queen Elizabeth did pass away while I was stitching it, so I put her monogram above the crown. Really a sweet sampler. Love stitching it. Would like to frame it. That is something I do a lot when I stitch, if you have not watched me a bit. A lot of times when I'm stitching something, if a major event or life event or world event happens while I am stitching a project, I like to put something in the project to remind me of what happened while I was stitching it. So sometimes I'll change initial colors or add a motif or something. So like I said, this one I put Queen Elizabeth's monogram in it. Makes it meaningful for me when I look back onto it, to look back at it to say, that's what was happening while I was stitching that project. All right, we are into July. July, I have another one that I will put a photo in. I made another scissor fob for my friend Lynette. I used a Prairie Schooler motif. It's from one of their little cards, and I used the same Blackbird sampler for her initial on the back, and I really like the way that came out. Lynette is an amazing gardener. She grows flowers and she grows vegetables, and the flowers on that Prairie Schooler design really made me think of her. My finish next was we're still in July 13th. And I finished that at the New Jersey retreat run by Arlene Cohen. Used to be known as the Floss Tube New Jersey retreat. And I think it's called something else now. But I finished at that retreat this year. This was one of my huge finishes of the year. This is Modern Folk Embroidery. I'm going to move you a little bit. Change the angle. Modern Folk Embroidery. Seasons. Stitch Along. Was there 20... Quaker Seasons Stitch Along. 2018, I believe, Stitch Along. And when you see the picture of where it was when it was started, I did a ton this year. Side by side. I'm going to move it up close so you can see it. I stitched this on a 40 count linen. This is a standard Zweigart color. I believe it's cream. And I stitched it with DMC. Just DMC. DMC is beautiful on its own. This was my COVID and pneumonia project. I started the year with just the top 3 panels done. This is a 12-piece sampler. 12 parts. I had 3 done. I finished 9 this year by July. At the end of 2022, I was hoping I could finish this. And I was thinking it was a huge long shot because I only had 3 out of the 12 months done. So I was really, really happy to have it, to be able to finish that. I do plan on framing this. So I am going to leave this one out as well so we can measure it for a frame. I love the Modern Folk Embroidery Stitch Alongs. I have stitched 2 of them. I love the one that Jacob has coming out for 2024. I will not be stitching it. I really want to try to get to my other big samplers, but that's coming in plans. This was started in 2018, did not a lot of it. And as you saw, just had a third of it done going into 2023 and was able to finish it. Lost my train of thought. Must not have been that important. That was a big finish, and it was nice to have a big finish like that at a retreat where there are other stitches to help celebrate. My next finish was in August. So we're still doing good, right? We missed May, but as of August, that 15th finish, it was Summer in the Country. And that is by Stitches Through the Years on Etsy. I think she has somebody else selling her patterns now, so I will link it. And I will put up side by side for this one as well. I loved the stitch. The light is so wonky. It is really not showing how rich the colors are on this right now. This is stitched on a 40 count, truly mystery fabric. I bought it in a D-stash. I pulled my own colors. I think I may have had 1 or 2 of what was called for. Otherwise, I pulled from my own stash. 1 strand of floss over 2 linen threads. And I love the way that came out. I think this fits in an 8x10 frame. I think that's why I did a 40 count. So once again, I should keep it out so I can fully finish it, frame it. Love it. There was a lot of stitching in this. Like, the stitching was no joke, but such a pleasure to stitch. So love it. Then from August, we go until November before we have another finish. Remember what I said, things kind of fell apart a little bit. It's okay. My next finish is November 7th, and that was Byron Blackbird. I can't find it. I know it's here. I know it's in this room. I can't find it. So I will put a picture in of Byron Blackbird finish. I stitched this on a 40 count weathered stone. Started it at the Stitch New England retreat with my friend Angela. We did it as a stitch along, and I could not put him down. I stitched it with I think the called for colors. It called for 1 fancy floss. and I did use it. And yeah, I could not put him down. It was a fantastic stitch. It's by the Artsy Housewife. I have the 2 other ones in the series. Can't wait to stitch them and fully finish them because I have a plan of how I want to fully finish them. I need to find it first. So also in the plans for 2024 is to really clean and organize my cross stitch. So Byron was finished number 16. All right. Also in November, after I finished Byron, I really wanted to stitch a Christmas ornament. This is from the Little Stitcher. As I've said, I love the Little Stitcher. This is from the current 2023 Just Cross Stitch Christmas Ornament book. And this was a new start and a finish, and it is stitched on 28 count raw opalescent linen with the called for DMC. It's really, really pretty. It's really washed out, but a really good stitch. The Just Cross Stitch ornament book this year, in my opinion, has a lot of fantastic ornaments in it. You can probably still find it, so yeah, I would recommend it. So now 2 more finishes, and look what's in the view. So my last regular video that I made this year was in November or beginning of December. And I said I wanted to have 2 finishes by the middle of December. I don't know who I thought I was kidding that I was going to be able to film. I did finish them by the middle of December. The first one is this gorgeous white tiger. And I will put in a picture of where it was at the beginning of the year. And this is another one, when I looked at the picture, I said, wow, I cannot believe I stitched all of this year. So I'll bring it up now. Let me put it on the back. This is the frame I have for it. It's not framed yet. I need to have my husband cut a piece of mat board. I realized too late that I need dark mat board because it's navy blue fabric, so it won't show through. But how gorgeous is that tiger? This is for my oldest daughter. She loves tigers, especially white tigers. This is by a Russian designer. I bought it off of Etsy years ago. It is no longer available on Etsy. It might be available through some other source, but I am not aware of it. This is stitched on navy even weave, 28 count, with the called for DMC. It is over 2 because there are a lot of blended threads in it. And yes, this looks as amazing in person as it does on screen. Wow, right? I can't stop looking at it. So I finished it at the the middle of December 2023. There is backstitch, multiple colors of backstitch. This was a challenging stitch, but I am beyond thrilled with it. Yes, so I finished 2 full coverage designs this year. Love it. My daughter's birthday is January 4th, so this will be framed and given to her for January 4th. I should be able to show it in a video at the beginning of the year before she goes back to school. One more time, because I just can't. It's just so beautiful. All right, we'll stop looking at it because the next finish is just as big. My oldest WIP was from 2003. It was from a class I took with R&R Reproductions at Celebrations of Needlework in May of 2003. I was pregnant with the daughter I made that tiger for at celebrations that year. The daughter is going to be 20 in January. And I had been saying for a couple of years, I needed to finish this sampler, Constance Thayer, before she could drink. She's going to be 21 in May of 2024. So my big goal this year was to finish Constance. And I'm going to pop a picture in of where Constance was on January 1st of 2023, because I kept saying, I'm going to finish her. I am going to finish her. I did not have a lot done on Constance at the beginning of the year. I told myself, no problem, I can finish it. Well, you can finish it if you work on it, Amy. And I did. I worked on it quite a bit at the beginning of the year, did a lot of this over one lettering. And then in November, I said, you know what? We've got to finish her. So guess what? I am going to move you again. I don't like moving once we've started because I make people sick. But Constance is done. I'll hold her back so you can see her. And then I am going to bring her in so you can see her closer. Wow. So she's finished before she can drink. However, she's going to make the retreat tour with me in 2024. So she can go out with drinks with us at the retreat. So she may have been finished before she can drink, but she's going to go on her victory tour next year. Because let's face it, it took me 20 years to finish stitching her. I'm not going to get her framed immediately. So I'm going to go up and we're going to see. So all the words are over one. It's a lot of words over one. This is stitched with DMC and it's stitched with one specialty floss in the border. Now, I'm going to show you the pineapple. My friend Ellen had suggested to do the pineapple with eyelets and cross stitches to give it dimensions. It was charted with the queen stitch. I could have done it. I didn't want to because I wanted dimension in the pineapple. So I'm going to show it to you up close. I'm folding it a certain way because I want to then show you the inscription. So I really like the way that came out. It has some nice texture in it. So I alternated the light is the eyelets, and then there's 4 crosses to make up the rest of the pineapple. So thank you, Ellen, for that suggestion. The house was a beast. This bottom panel was a beast. And I think what really helped me finish it was I skipped down to the bottom to get it done because I knew if I left that for last, I would never finish it. There are some specialty stitches underneath the door. And this is not a reproduction sampler. This was designed by Ann and Pat of R&R Reproductions after September 11th of 2001. Because remember, I started this in 2003. It was designed as a friendship sampler, a post 9/11 friendship sampler. Well, I didn't put the name on it, Constance, there because Constance was not a real person. I wanted to personalize it. So this is my personalization. Amy Jones marked the sampler for far too many years. I think that's very appropriate because it was far too many years. So once again, here she is in her entirety. She's a big girl, 32 count linen. This is a fat half. And most of her was stitched this year. I had wanted to finish her on a Friday. I didn't finish her until I think Tuesday or Wednesday, but she did get done. And that was my second big sampler finish of the year. I don't think I've ever read the verse on here. Let me just do that quickly before I put her away. It says, "Tell me Ye knowing and discerning few, where I may find a friend that is firm and true, who dares stand by me when in distress, and then her love and friendship most express, who by secret sympathy can share my joy, my grief, my misery, my care. She must be prudent, faithful, just, and wise, who can such a pitch of friendship rise. So I am looking forward to framing her and hanging her up. But like I said, she is going to go on tour, go on retreat tour in 2024 first, and then she will be framed and be on the wall. So she is no longer my oldest WIP. And we are back with plans. If you have looked up from your cross stitching, you may have noticed that there is now a costume change. I filmed the first half of this video, actually the whole video I filmed in 2023, December 27th of 2023. When I was watching it back and editing, by the time I hit plans, we were doing floss tube by Braille. You really couldn't see anything, and there was a lot of word salad involved. So I figured, let's come back and let's do it so that you could actually see the projects I'm talking about. It's been crazy. So it's been 2 weeks. Let's get through it, because we are into 2024 and I have already started with these plans. So I am going to show you how I plan on touching every project this year, because that is my cross stitch goal this year, is to touch every project. And I also pulled 13 projects that I am going to focus on finishing this year. In the past, I have been very bad about hitting all of my projects. I typically stitch on the same projects over and over, and I have decided against doing a full WIP parade this year for that reason. Because most of the projects I've worked on in the last year, you either just saw because I finished them, or you're going to see some of them now on the projects that I am focusing on finishing. I would like to be able to touch every project every year and make good progress on it, which likely means I have too many WIPs. I have 40 active WIPs. So I say this every year, I need to WIP down. I did not increase my number of WIPs this year, but I didn't decrease them either. We'll see what 2024 brings. So I'm going to put up on the screen a visual. I made a chart of my cross stitch plans for 2024. It's actually not very complicated, but it is much easier to see on a grid than hear me just talk about it. That's the word salad I was talking about. So I type this up, this helps me, and it'll probably may help you too, and may give you some ideas. So for 2024, I separated my cross stitch projects into 5 categories. I have my large samplers. I have my projects from 2020 and earlier. I have projects from 2021 to 2023. I separated out all my monochromatic samplers. And then I have 2 full coverage. On the bottom of the 3rd column, you will see I have inactive legacy WIPs. After a project hits 10 years, I put it into the category that I term legacy WIPs, which is basically, it is now an inactive WIP. It's a project I want to complete. I have no burning desire to complete it, as it is already 10 years old and not done. And what I do is I pull out 1 or 2 a year to work on, and the rest of them stay in that inactive drawer. Eventually, I would like to have no more legacy WIPs, and I am working my way down. You'll see that this year there are 5 in that category, and I'm a few years away from adding back to it. So let's see if we can empty it out and not put more in. When I was looking at my goals for the year, I wanted to make sure, as I said, I touched everything. And I also want to make sure that my older projects get touched more than my newer projects. So that was why I separated out the 2020 and earlier WIPs. And you'll notice that that category is half the size of the 2021 to 2023. So what I did after I separated them out into these categories is I made a tiny decision wheel for the 4 main categories. My large samplers are going to get 2 days a week. I am going to pick 1 sampler per month, and that will get every Monday and Tuesday of the month. When I add up all the Monday and Tuesdays of the year, there were 106 days there. You'll see at the top, I starred And They Sinned. And They Sinned is going to be my focus project of the year. And They Sinned, I am going to work on every other month. And that will get half of those 106 days. It will get 53 days of the year. And I am going to hope that I am going to finish it. I will put that project up because that is on my focus on a finish list. I'll put where it was on the 31st of December. I have worked on it the first 2 days of this year, which was Monday and Tuesday. So I want you to see where it was the 31st of December. My 2020 and earlier WIPs, as I said, there's half as many of those as there are my later WIPs. I am going to spin each of those wheels twice a month. So that will give me a total of 2 from each of those categories. And each spin is going to be equal to 3 days. Now, when I add up how many projects are in those lists and multiply them times 3, I get the numbers 72 and 78. And you're going to say, Amy, those numbers are not equal. And why do you have more for the earlier WIPs when there's less there? And the reason being is I plan on spinning, because I'm intentionally left fewer in that category, so I can spin that wheel twice I can get through everything on that wheel twice as opposed to once on the later wheel. The last category with a wheel are what I'm calling monochromatic monthlies. Those are all my samplers that have 1 color or floss. And in the past, I have done very well completing samplers by doing 1 strand a day on a project. That is really how I finished my big green Perman sampler, which I affectionately refer to as my green blanket. And when I say 1 strand a day, what I mean is I'll cut the equivalent of 30 strands of floss for that project at the beginning of the month. And my goal during that month is to put it in. It may be within 3 to 4 days. It could take me the entire month. But that's my goal, is the equivalent of 30 strands a day. 30 strands a month. There is overlap. Everything that is in the large sampler and the monochromatic monthly is also in their respective category. So at a minimum, things are going to get 3 days. Most things should get 6 or more. So we shall see. I also added up all the days that are, for the spins, and I do have days left over. I should have 10 days left over every month to either work on something that is calling my name or something that I want to focus on finishing, or whatever the heck I want to work on. So that was 7 minutes of no cross stitch shown. A lot of talking. So let me show you some cross stitch. You may have noticed that I also had full coverage in that category, and there were 2 full coverages listed. As of the last time I filmed, I had 1 full coverage. My New Year, New Start, which was actually on December 31st, because I couldn't let the 123, 123 go by, was a full coverage start. And I will put a picture in of that here. It is a Heaven and Earth Designs chart. The artwork is by Dominic Davidson. It is Sunset in Venice. And here is my start. I am stitching it on a 28 count even weave, the gridded Lugana, and I have about 1,000 stitches in there. My plan for my full coverage samplers is to keep 1 out on the hoop every month. So January, it'll be this one because I just started it. And no goals, just want to try to put some stitches in it. I tend to pick it up here and there and put, you know, a couple hundred in. So like I said, no number goals. I would love a couple thousand a month, but if I don't get it, I don't get it. I just want to enjoy stitching on them. I did finish 2 full coverage last year, and they were smaller, but I did finish 2, and I would like to have 2 in the rotation. No plans to start anymore right now, but we'll just enjoy those 2. So I also said I picked out 13 projects that I want to focus on finishing. So let me show you those projects. So it's kind of a WIP-ish parade, we can call it that. So the first project is one of those legacy inactive WIPs that I have pulled into the rotation for this year. I actually pulled it in for last year and I did not get to it. So we're gonna hope to work it out again this year and hope to finish it. It is Schoolgirl Basics by Jess Nan. This was a class piece from 2004. So yes, that was 20 years ago. And this is all I have done. This is with all the class materials, all the kitted materials. It is silks on 28 count linen, and there are also some beads in there. This is not a large design at all, as you can tell by the piece. So I would like to finish it. The stitch count is 95 by 37, so not large. The next focus on a finish is a project I have not touched since 2019. It is Prairie Moon, Thine is the Trick and the Treat. Love this chart. This was out of print for a very long period of time. Very hard to find, but Prairie Moon does sell PDFs now of this on their website. Started that in 2019. I don't think I've worked on it since. This is not in the monochromatic category because I am using 2 strands of floss. This is on a 40 count Under the Sea fabric, Christmas in Williamsburg, which I love this fabric. It's so pretty. I am stitching it with 2 grays from Victorian Mono Floss. There's a darker and a lighter. You can kind of see it there. I'm just kind of picking where I want to add the 2 different colors. That piece is a little bit deceiving. There are actually quite a few like quarter stitches in it, so it takes a little bit of time to do. Not that large, but it's not a brainless stitch. Next focus on a finished piece is the Old Salem Broom Company by Primitive Hair. This I am stitching on a piece of Picture This Plus Wren in 40 count. And I have a nice start on this one. I think I'm almost down at the bottom. That might be the bottom, I'm not sure. So this is stitched with 2 colors of DMC, 310, and I don't remember what the other one is. But I love how this is looking. And I'd really like to display this for Halloween this year. I also would like to liberate the rest of the fabric from some of these projects. A lot of times I don't cut my fabric until after I finish the project, or at least until I finish the border. So I have a lot of fabric tied up in some of these projects. Next project, Lizzie Kate, Eek Boo Hiss. I started this in 2020. It is a small project. I'm going to do the 3 of them in a row on a piece of 28 count Monaco that I coffee tea dyed. Boo is done. So I have Eek and Hiss to do. I don't know why this has been sitting since 2020, because really, this is probably, you know, 4 or 5 days of stitching at most. It calls for fancy floss. I am using the DMC equivalent it gives. I'm kind of playing with it a little bit. I'm kind of brightening up the colors, I think. If I remember back, that's what I was doing. Next focus on a finish, Miss Bingley's Library by Plum Street Designs. I have loved this project since it came out. Started it, I'm pretty sure, in 2020. Done very little since. So this is going to be hard to see because I did it on a cream linen, and pretty much what I've stitched is white. I'm going to hold it up. Actually, you can see that pretty well. I kind of wish I chose a little bit of a darker linen. Pretty sure this is 46 count. I also wish I did not choose 46 count. That may be why this project is languishing, but would love to finish it and hang it in my library. It's not a large piece, but there is a decent amount of stitching in it. It's, besides the house, there's still some solid stitching in it. And I'm pretty sure I chose 46 count because it would fit in the standard size frame, which is something I do often. I'll play with the fabric count so I can fit it in a less expensive frame. The next project is Neapolitan Sampler. Next Focus on a Finish. I'll put a picture up of what it will look like because I do not have the cover sheet. And this is where I am on it. This is from Hemlock and Rye Designs. It is a reproduction from my friend Julie, who is Kansas City Girl in a Colorado World. This is on 40 count L with all of the called for DMC. Not a large sampler. I do find the ale a little tricky to work on unless I have good light, because it is dark and the holes are tight. But I love this. This is about, I'm almost at the bottom of it on that side. Julie has quite a few really nice samplers. And once I finish this one, I will start another one. So I look forward to doing all of them. So check her out. She has a Gumroad and an Etsy shop, and I will link them both below. Next Focus on a Finish is Beatrix Potter's Quaker Sampler. This is the needle print version of the chart. Stitchy Box is still selling this chart. You can't find the needle print, but it's the same chart. Stitchy Box has the rights for it, and you can buy a PDF from them. I just have been stitching forever, and I have the old copy of the chart. I had started this December of 2022, and I really wanted to finish it in 2023. I did well doing a few motifs a month until about the middle of the year, and I fell off. So I'm about halfway through. I'll leave it on the Q-snap, but I did take off the sides so you can see it. This is on 40 count ballet slippers by Fox and Rabbit Designs, and I am using a needlepoint silk with it. Really, really a fun stitch. So talking about those categories, this project here will be, it is on my 2021 to 2023 wheel. So it would get pulled for 3 days there, but this is also on the monochromatic wheel. So if it gets pulled before it's done, it would get 30 strands that month. So even though it's a bigger piece, I do feel that I would be able to finish it. Next project, this is one of the ones I feel like is really a reach. This and They Sinned and this are the two biggest reaches. This is Mirabilia's Touching the Autumn Sky. I started this last year. This chart's being lent to me by a dear friend, and I would like to return it so she could lend it to somebody else. This is stitched with all the called for DMC, and it is on a silk weaver fabric, and the color is kind of showing. It looks like a winter sky. So I did all the way across the top, the confetti up there. It was not fun. I've heard that's the worst part, and we have moved on to the girl. This will need some of those extra 10 days a month if I am going to finish it, because there's a lot of stitching on it, and on my wheels it could only be called for 3 days, and obviously that's not going to cut it. That's why I need those extra 10 days a month. Next Focus on a Finish is Chessie and Me, the Grant House sampler. I started this last year with my friend Shelly, who is It Is Only Stitching here in Floss Tube. This is on a 36 count linen, and I think I'm using most of the called for, and this is what I have here. Did not work on it that much. We want to actually finish it in 2024 because it's an election year, and we plan on starting the Lincoln House sampler next. Not a lot, but the big house is left. Right. Next is something else I started the end of 2022, Halloween Ride by, who is it? Yasmin Made with Love. I love this. As soon as I saw this, the fox peeking out of the pumpkin, like I had to stitch it. So I got not as good of a start as I would have liked. Put this on here because I was stitching it in hand and it's all rolled up. So it's not a large piece. I don't have a ton done, but I think that this is doable for a finish. I am stitching this with a lot of, some of the call for, but a lot of my own over dyes. When I was stitching this, I don't like how the pumpkin was getting stripy. So I started pulling the floss and I'm stitching it kind of like up and down around a circle on the other side. So I would possibly be further on this if I wasn't restitching it, but I digress. All right, the next two projects are projects you have not seen because I actually started them after I finished those two large finishes in December. Of course, I didn't finish either one of them, but they're not big. I want them to be finishes this year. First one is Christmas Reindeer Sampler by Kathy Barrick. I love this. It is a teeny tiny. Stitch count is 61 by 84. I am stitching it on a 46 count. This is a little comical. I'm stitching this on a 46 count, so it is teeny tiny. This is about half the sampler. That's how much fabric I have with it right now. I think it's a half. So once I do the outline, I can cut it. But yes, so this I think is very doable for a finish. No idea what fabric it is. It is a 46 count. And the last project on my focus on a finish, I will put a picture up here of the project because I'm working off of a PDF. It is Nutcracker Parade by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I have never stitched a frosted pumpkin before. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And here it is. This is on an 18 count Ada by Picture This Plus. The color is Jade. Hold it back here so you can see the colors. Hold up closer so you can see the stitching. I'm stitching it with one strand of floss. So you can see the coverage is fantastic with that. And this has been my TV stitch. We have my husband hates when I say we have poor lighting in our living room. We don't have the best lighting in our living room. So I can stitch on this. I cannot stitch on 46 count while watching TV, but I can stitch on this here. Like I said, I've never done a frosted pumpkin before, but I love some of their Christmas stuff. So whimsical. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen the Nutcracker. My oldest one did ballet for years and years and years. So every year, Nutcracker. So that brought a smile to my face. I hope to have more finishes or some other finishes that are in my WIP pile, but those are the ones when I looked through that some that have been lingering that I don't want to turn into legacies. Some newer ones that are small that I should be able to just get in and out. So those are 13 I pulled to focus on. I'm going to show you 3 things that I plan on starting. Amy, you said you have too many WIPs. I know, I do. But I have so much stuff I want to stitch too. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I want to keep starts down. I plan on not starting a lot of big things. Let's put it that way. I am going to start a sampler for Leap Day. I think I'm going to start a GGR sampler because Gigi turned 90 last year, and I do not have a GGR sampler as a WIP. As we get closer, I will show you which one I plan on doing or which ones I'm waffling between. I have 3 projects here that I am planning on starting soon. This one, I keep showing this one. I really got to start this thing. The Ipswich Witch in the corner, I really want to make for my mom because we have a connection to Ipswich, Massachusetts, where the Ipswich Hosiery Company was. I think the fabric I have pulled for it, I really don't like. So I think I'll go stash diving for different fabric and I'd be more likely to want to start it. The next project is a Rebecca Nurse House by Primitive Hair. I actually have already stitched this once. I stitched it and gave it to a friend who is a Revolutionary War reenactor who works out of the Rebecca Nurse House. So I wanted to stitch this for her. I want to stitch it for myself too. And a group of us who Zoom together on Tuesday nights are going to start this together in February. So I stitched it last time on 40 count vintage country mocha with the call for DMC. Likely to do the same this time. And the last one I have planned to start will be a start this weekend. This is an old kit. It's Elsa Williams kit. I'll pull this out. It's called Sunday Morning Memories. It's a bell pull. I'll hold it up so you can see the whole bell pull is there on the side. I saw this on somebody's floss tube. I don't know whose floss tube it was. And I saw it and I loved it. And I immediately went to eBay and I found it. And it was very inexpensive. It was under $20, I think, for the entire kit shipped. It is a kit. It has 14 count white DMC and fibers I need to divide. I then went to my friend Lynette, who was homesteading on the home front, and said, look what I found. This is going to be my snow day start. And she said, ooh, I need to do it too. So she's already started hers. One of the boss stitchers, it was Jane, so she has it. So she's going to start it. So if anybody wants to start this with us, it's Elsa Williams Bell Pull, Sunday Morning Memories. Please feel free. It is not a print kit. It is, like I said, it's not hard to find. I think I spent 20 bucks for it. There is a companion piece, which Lynette pointed out to me, which we then both also bought, which was the same, about $20. So totally doable. All right, I am going to pause here for a minute. And the last thing I am going to show you, if you're still with me, is what my wheels chose for me for the month of January. All right, I was so excited to spin those darn wheels. How long will this keep up? You know, like I make plans. I love to make plans. I don't always keep the plans. I don't know. We're going to go with it. There's no rules in cross stitch. If I wake up in May and I decide I'm done with the wheels, I want to stitch what I want, then you know what? We're going to stitch what we want. But for now, we're going to give it a try and I'm enjoying it. So, big sampler, and they send Mondays and Tuesdays in the month of January. My monochromatic monthly choice. I was very excited. This one came up. This is one of my legacy WIPs. This is Splendor 5. It is a coverlet by The Heart's Content. I know I initially started this in 2003, which will make it my oldest WIP. But I restarted it at some point because I think it called for a 32 count fabric and I got a little ways into it and I was like, this is madness. It's over one. So I got a 28 count instead. It is with one color of DMC, 823. And this is what I have done. Would I like this to be a finish in 2024? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be a finish in 2024? Probably not. Not unless I really get on a roll with it. This should be called twice, so it should get a minimum of 60 strands of floss, and that will be a good start and get me, you know, some pretty good progress. Maybe set it up for a finish next year. All right, so my the 2024 projects, one I was very excited to spin, the other one not so much. Let me show you the not so much one first. Oh, I just dropped stuff. I usually do it the other way. Figured I'd try this way. I don't know. All right, so this is Savior's Praise by Shakespeare's Peddler. I will put a picture up of the chart because I have no idea where my chart is, which is one of the reasons I'm not excited about it. The other reason I'm not excited about it is because I have a mistake somewhere and I need to find it and frog it. That is all I have done. This was started Easter Sunday 2020. And I have not worked on it since because I made the mistake. I didn't pick it out and I haven't pulled it out. So lesson learned, I almost always frog something before I put it away if I know there's a mistake. I'm pretty sure this is a 46 count linen and it is a Victorian motto, so it does not have a name. And I'm stitching it with the called for floss, which is Anchor, and there's a couple of fancy flosses in there. All right, I'll be right back because I gotta go pick up what I just dropped. I have to say, this has been the most challenging video I have filmed in years. It's okay though. Don't mind. And we're almost at the end. I just need to edit. Okay, the other pre-2021 WIP that I chose, I'm so excited about. Nevermore by Leela Studio. I started this in 2020. I have not stitched on it since. Why? I don't know. I love it. I'm using all the called for floss, which I'm not going to show you because you can see the chart if I showed you it. And I am stitching this on a Stitch Me linen. It was a fabric of the month. It's like a steel blue gray. It's beautiful. And that's all I have. That's almost the whole way across the top. Like, why should not start so many things, Amy? Because we have beautiful things we love that we haven't finished. So those are my old projects that were chosen, and I am very excited about 2 of the 3. And once I frog a mistake on Savior's Praise, I will be excited about that one too. All right, newer projects. I was so excited about these as well. Joyous Noel by Blackbird Designs. I am stitching that sampler on the cover. Unfortunately, this is an out of print book, but they've been printing a lot of the out of print ones, so hopefully that will come back because there's a lot of good stuff in it. Stitched with the called for floss. I think I started it in 2021. Yeah, because I know I didn't start it in 2022. And this is all I have done. It is a really beautiful, there's a few ghost letters on there, which I'm good with. Like, I am all about the ghost letters and samplers. But that is all I have done. Like, not a big start at all. I worked on it for a couple of days, put it away, and haven't pulled it out since. And look at those colors. I mean, I think I said in one of my last videos, like, I love Christmas pieces that are non-traditional Christmas colors. They don't look pretty, right? I mean, the colors look pretty. Not the way the floss was lying. All right, and the last piece I was super excited about as well. This is At Home by Brenda Gervais. I started this at Stitch New England in 2023. I am stitching it on 40 count vintage country mocha with all the call for floss. When I showed this in my last video, I had a line of stitches down the border. After I had my 2 big finishes, I said I need to stitch on something. I want to get some progress on something that has nothing on it. So I pulled this out. Guys, I had so much fun stitching on this. Let me show you. So I have a good part of the border done. Worked my way across the top. The colors on this are so beautiful. Like, it does not show in that picture. I was filling in the border as I was going, and then I realized I might not have enough of the color of the border. It's called for on the inside too, so I wanted to finish the border to make sure I finish off that skein before I buy a new one because I dye a lot. But so pretty. So I was working on it in December, and I was like, oh, I gotta put it away and wait for my free days because January I'm spinning, and this was the very first thing I spun. I was so excited. So yeah, I would like to finish the border on that. So this is another piece of fabric I would love to cut. So I'm not working with a blanket. And the thing I am changing on this is the house is like beige. I love this piece, but I find it very one tone. So I am making my house a brick house, a red brick house. And those are my projects for January. If you are still with me, thank you so much, because like I said, this was a tough video for some reason. Like, it was just hard with all the external elements, and I got a heck of an editing job ahead of me. As I said, no full WIP parade this video. I will link my last year's WIP parade down below if you want to watch it, if you haven't seen it. But theoretically, I should hit every WIP this year, so you will see all my WIPs. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and continuing to come back. I feel like I have been a very bad floss tuber the past few years. I have been very inconsistent. I have been horrible with replying to comments. It's been a couple of those years where life has just not left a lot of time for things like filming, but I do enjoy doing it. I do enjoy sharing with everybody. I do enjoy conversing with everybody and meeting people. And this is a fun way for me to do it. So thank you for being there with me the past many years. This month is my floss tube anniversary. I think is it 5 years, 6 years? It's been a while. It's been a while. So thanks for coming along for the ride. Have a happy new year, and I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks with progress on these. And I hope to spin for my next month during the 3rd week of February so I can gather everything I need. So happy new year, everybody. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon. Bye.